Hello.
Hello, my name is Frank Walker from National
National
Times. It's Franco Conso.
Franco Cozzo.
Grandsire.
Grandsire.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Dominic. How do you do?
Oh, I do very good. Thank you
You
very
do?
much.
That is great.
How do
I
you
know
do?
I do good too. I do good too. You've got a dinner tonight. Are you going somewhere nice? Are you going out somewhere? Talk to me. Are you having it at someone's home? What are you doing?
I'm just heading over to Glyn and Rickers, so it's nothing
Amazing.
fancy. But,
No, but that's lovely.
yeah, I'm excited. So,
Beauty.
yeah. How have you been? How's work? How's life?
Yeah, life is grand. Work is good. I'm getting used to driving a little bit further, and I've been listening to lots of driving further. Dom's laughing because where I was previously working, it would take me. So if I got the one traffic light between my home and my work, it would take me maybe 4 minutes. But if I got the green light, it would be about two minutes to work. So I've definitely extended that a little, and I'm driving about a 90-minute round trip. So, sort of 35, 40 in the morning and about 45 at night to get home. However, I have been listening to, and I've fallen deeply in love with Mark Maron.
Yep.
Some people, if you've seen Glow, he is he's the main guy in Glow. He just does exquisite stuff, and his podcast, he interviews celebrities, and it's just the way his interview techniques and stuff are amazing. So I love listening to his voice, and we're meant to be. So I can't wait to meet him and let him know.
When's the wedding?
Yeah.
And how pregnant? How far along are you? It's twins.
Which twins? Yay! But otherwise it's going really well, and I'm excited. Every day goes really quickly, which is nice because then it's just one day closer to some more holidays for me. So I'm happy.
Last week it was retirement.
Yeah.
This we've just
holidays. I'm
just
downgraded to holidays. I actually have a question, and I'd like to ask our listeners. I'm going to take a little bit of time off at the end of the year to travel, so I'm going to take about 4 weeks off-ish. Pending approval from my boss. But I had planned to go to Canada. However, Japan is niggling in the back of my mind. I really like the idea of going to Japan. I've never been to any Asian countries before. I have never been to Japan or any of the other countries around there. So I'm thinking maybe Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put a poll up on our Insta. Should I go to Canada or Japan? Let me know.
I highly recommend doing that.
Yeah. How are you, Dom? What's news?
Still unemployed.
Congrats. Wait, is that the appropriate response?
Yeah, look, I'm still applying for jobs. It's fine. But I'm not rushing. I'm trying this new thing where I actually treat myself to little things that I normally would be like, no, you can't do that. You're saving for this. So
I love that.
I bought myself some new underwear.
Congratulations.
I bought myself some new T-shirts and shirts.
Nice. Are you wearing one right now? It's a very fancy shirt. I like that one.
I am. And nice. Even got the brand new microphone, which I'm really excited about because I think this is the official first time that we're using both of our new setups with our new recording setup. So we should sound like so professional.
And if you're watching this on a digital version, my camera is also better. I don't look like I'm sitting in a blacked out dungeon. Thanks.
Look how
But now I've just realized that I'm like, my hair's got more detail. I've got to be careful. My eyeballs, so I'm working on it.
You look great.
Thank you.
All right, let's do some what?
Housekeeping.
You know it's my favorite.
I do.
And you know the drill, folks. As always, please go check out all of our social channels, Instagram, TikTok. We're doing so many more funny reels and jokes and things these days, so you should go check that out. It's shitten.bricks.podcast on every channel. Easy to find.
Yeah, just type in shitten and you'll find us.
Yeah, we're the top shit.
Yeah, we are the top shit. Bang!
And while you're at it, go check out our Patreon. It's also shitten.bricks.podcast. It's just a couple bucks a month. It helps Kate and I keep the lights on and do all of our fun, fancy things. Become one of our patrons. You get lots of free shit. So go check that one out. And last but not least, I forgot this last week, Kate. So bad me. But remember, this year is our year of rating and reviewing our podcast. So
yes, please.
You've only got like 40 more minutes, folks. You're probably at your second traffic light on the way to work, or you've just done the second block walking with the dogs. Whatever it is, at the end of this, it's in whatever streaming service that you use. Just give us the 5 stars that we totes deserve, and
I think
that
so.
would be really, really helpful.
Let's do that. I love it.
So, without further ado, I'm 1 minute over exactly now.
Perfect.
But this week, Kate, you've got a story for us, don't you?
I certainly do, Dom. I sure do. And I want to start with, as I usually do, we're going to talk about a phobia. So today's phobia is agripyrophobia. Agripyrophobia. There it is.
Can I have a go spelling it?
Absolutely, you can. Hit me.
AGRI P Y
yes
R A.
Ooh.
Oh. Ooh. Is it ooh or
it's
ah?
Ooh. It's ooh.
I got close.
You were so close. So yes, it is from the Greek words agri and pyro. So that means field. So agricultural, means field, forest, area, but field, and pyro meaning fire. And it is specifically the fear of wildfires. It is a form of pyrophobia. However, pyrophobia is the opposite. And that is the, more familiar, it's kind of associated with pyromania, which you will know is in fact the the desire, the need, the addiction to start fires and watch them burn, no matter how small or large they may be. So I, believe it or not, I'm going to be talking about some wildfires today. Could you guess?
I think that was definitely on the books.
It was on the cards.
Yeah.
From what and I did tell our listeners last week that's what I'd be talking about. So spoiler alert. Let me start off with, I always love a list. Here's a bit of a list for you. I went on to earth.org and I found a list of the top 12 largest wildfires in history. Now, I did a little bit of fact checking on a couple of these, and to be honest, the numbers are a little bit off in terms of either, fatalities during that or houses lost or things like that. I'm just going to read that direct from the earth.org, but I'll get into some more detail about them a little bit later. Before I read my list, I'm thrilled to announce that I found a website that also compares sizes of things to things that you might be more familiar with, to put it in context. And I was so thrilled. So I went to campussmarts.com/how big is 1 acre of land. And I got some really great examples. Here's 2 of them. For our American listeners, or for those of you that are familiar with American football, an acre of land is 76% of an American football field, including the end zones. Okay? So it's about 3/4 of an American football field. Is that a fire truck in the background?
I know. There's a fire. There's a wildfire.
How's the timing?
The leg hair's got fire again.
Yes.
I'm very hairy for those that can't tell.
Your hair suit. So 76% of an American football field. So 3/4 of that is an acre. Or if you're more of a tennis fan, if you recently watched the Australian Open, we're very lucky to have that here in Melbourne. 1 acre of land can fit 15 tennis courts.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you're a sport fan, if you're not a sport fan, you might be plumb out of luck. But those are the 2 that I found that I thought were, you could kind of put that in your mind. So, keeping that in your mind, number 12 on my list is the 1989 Manitoba wildfires in Canada. They burned 1.3 million acres of land. So 15 tennis courts fit into 1 acre. That's a shitload of tennis courts in 1.3 million acres. Okay, that's my official measurement. It's a shitload. All right.
20 million-ish tennis courts.
Correct. So a little bit about the Manitoba fires. Between mid-May and early August 1989, a total of 1,147 fires, the highest number ever recorded, broke in Manitoba, a Canadian province home to an immense variety of landscapes. There's, pretty much every landscape you could consider. The record-breaking fires burned nearly 1.3 million acres of land, and they resulted in the evacuation of 25,000 people from 32 different communities. The cost to suppress the fires amounted to US $52 million. I'm not sure why they did that in US dollars, but okay. And wildfires during the summer months are nothing new in Manitoba. The number of fires occurring in 1989 was nearly 4.5 times higher than the 20-year average. While May's blazes were mostly attributed to human action, most of July's fires were caused by intense lightning activities. So that's our Manitoba. Number 11 on my list, 2011 Richardson Back County fire, also in Canada. This burned 1.7 million acres. So the Richardson Backcountry fire broke out May 2011 in the Canadian province of Alberta. It was the largest fire since the 1950 Chinchaga fire. The blaze burned nearly 1.7 million acres of forest, and it resulted in lots of evacuations and shutdowns. Number 10 on my list. Just going to zip through this because I have another story after. Yeah. But the 1987 Black Dragon fire in China and Russia burned 2.5 million acres. So we're going up in terms of acres in case you hadn't caught on just yet. But the Black Dragon fire of 1987 may have been the largest single fire in the world in the past several hundred years, as well as one of the deadliest forest fires in the People's Republic of China. It burned incessantly for over a month. So it just kept burning for over a month, destroying approximately 2.5 million acres of land. 18 million of those were forest. Number 9 on my list is the 1910 Great Fire of Connecticut in the United States, America. This one burned 3 million acres. So we're jumping up here. This was also called the Big Burn, the Big Blow Up, or the Devil's Broom Fire. This wildfire roared through the states of Idaho. I like the Devil's Broom.
I want a cocktail called that.
Yeah. Oh, we could make one. Let's do that. So this burned through the states of Idaho and Montana during the summer months of 1910. It burned for just 2 days. Okay, so this is 3 million acres in 2 days, whereas the previous one was 2.5 million acres in a month.
Not fucking about in Connecticut.
They were going for it. So strong winds caused an initial fire to combine with lots of smaller fires, and it just went bananas. Number 8 on my list is the 2010 Bolivia forest fires in South America. We're going global with this list. This fire in 2010 burned 3.7 million acres. That's a lot. That's a heck of a lot of tennis courts. In 2010, more than 25,000 fires burned across Bolivia, covering an area of approximately 3.7 million acres and damaging especially the country's section of the Amazon. The thick smoke that resulted from them forced the government to halt numerous flights and declare a state of emergency. Number 7 on my list, the 1950 Chinchaga fire. Mentioned it earlier, but this one in Canada burned 4.2 million acres. Also known as the Wisp Fire and Fire 19, the Chinchaga Forest Fire burned in northern British Columbia and Alberta from June until the early fall of 1950. It went down in history as one of the largest recorded fires in North American history, burning approximately 4.2 million acres. That's so many acres. All right, we're number 6. We are halfway through our list, and we're up to the Great Fire of 1919, also in Canada. This one burned. Do you want to guess, Dom? Our last was 4.2 million. What do we think the Great Fire of 1919 in Canada burned?
4.7 or 5.2?
5 million. You were very close. Despite happening more than a century ago, the Great Fire of 1919 is still remembered as one of the largest and most devastating wildfires in history. In early May of that year, a complex of many fires swept through the forests of Canada in both Alberta and Saskatchewan. The wood that had been cut...
that word.
Saskatchewan? Same. It's a beautiful word. The wood that had been cut for the timber industry, combined with strong dry winds, contributed to the quick burning flames that within just a few days ravaged about 5 million acres. You'd feel bad if you're like, I definitely left that wood out there for too long. I was supposed to pick it up on Tuesday. I was busy, had to get my hair done, and I couldn't pick up that timber that day. My bad.
It's a lot of land.
It is. Also in the 5 million acres club is number 5 on our list, the 1939 Black Friday bushfires. That was here in Australia, in specifically Victoria, the state which we live. The Black Friday fires have gone down in history, and those bushfires destroyed more than 5 million acres in Victoria. They were the culmination of several years of drought, followed by high temperatures and strong winds. The fires covered over 3/4 of the state's area and resulted in 71 casualties, making it the third most deadly bushfire in Australia's history. That's a record that I don't love that we hold, but no. Okay. Despite going on for several days, on January 13th, temperatures reached 44.7 degrees in the capital of Melbourne. That's horrendously hot. In Fahrenheit, that's like nearly like 110, 120 degrees, I think.
I remember it.
Yeah. And in Mildura, which is in the northwest, so that's very dry farming country, it reached 47.2 degrees Celsius. So that was a hot day. And the combination
cook an egg.
The droughts, the wind, you could cook an egg. No worries. Number 4 on our list, the 2004 Alaska fire season. So it's not even just like a day, it's a season. Gosh.
Canada is repping on this list.
I know. This is in the US, though. It says US. But Alaska's in the US?
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, Alaska's the US, but I just mean
it's like
that area.
Absolutely, that whole area. Now, this fire season burned 6.6 million acres.
Jesus.
So, this fire season in Alaska was the worst on record in the history of the US state of Alaska in terms of area burned. So 6.6 million acres were burned by 701 fires. My question is, how do you count fires? Is it satellite imagery?
Yeah, I guess so. I
guess
they can probably do it. It's just whether they're connected or not. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So 215 of these fires were started by lightning strikes, and the other 426 was started by humans. Now, I'm going to go into this in more detail, but just really quickly, if you're starting fires, you're one of the worst of the worst, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my blanket statement on that. Number 3 on our list is we have the 2014 Northwest Territory fires. We're going back to Canada. Do you want to guess how many acres this was, Dom? So we've gone from 6.6. What do we reckon?
7.3.
So close. It was 8.5.
I'm not good with numbers.
No, you're doing really well. It's such an arbitrary, it could be anything. So 8.5 million acres in the Northwest Territory fires. In the summer of 2014, over 150 separate fires broke out across the Northwest Territories of an area of about 442 square miles. And then they just burned. The forests got completely destroyed. The firefighters' operations cost the government a staggering $44.4 million US.
Ugh.
So it's just every element of it just sucks. It's awful. All right, number 2 on my list. This is the 2019-2020 Australian bushfires. So, Dom, we have gone, and you were here for those. That was recent. You have gone from 8.5 million acres for our number 3 on the list. Where do you think the ballpark sits with the Australian bushfires?
12.4.
Higher.
16.1.
42 million acres.
Holy Jesus.
Yeah. So we've jumped up a bit. These ones, the next two, these are the clear leaders in terms of sheer area that was burned. Now, the 2020 Australian bushfires went down in history for their catastrophic impact on wildlife. Heartbreaking, awful. The extreme bushfires tore through New South Wales and Queensland, and they burned 42 million acres, which was just horrendous. This impacted 3 billion animals, including 61,000 koalas. Our baby little koalas, our little chlamydia doped out fairy bears.
There's nothing wrong with having chlamydia. I've dabbled with chlamydia. No, I'm kidding. I've dabbled with a bit of...
But that's like 61,000 koalas. That's just, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah, we're still feeling it today. Like,
without a doubt,
koala population is not in a good place.
Yeah. Now, data released, so with these Australian fires, data released by the Climate Monitoring Body show Australia's mean temperature in 2019 was 1.52 degrees higher than average, making it the warmest year on record since 1910. January in 2019 was the warmest month Australia had ever recorded, and rainfall was 40% below average. So it's just it's a combination for disaster, that's for sure.
I'm just doing some quick sums, Kate.
Quick math.
That bushfire was larger than the entire state of Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
My God. There you go. That puts it into context a little, I guess. It's difficult to fathom. All right. Do you want to hear about number 1 on our list?
Absolutely.
It is the 2003 Siberian tiger fires in Russia. These fires burned 55 million acres of land.
Oh, that's almost the size of Arizona.
Oh, there you go. I like that. I like that you had that just ready to go too. Now, a combination of extremely arid conditions and increased human exploitation during recent decades, hint human beings, human exploitation is a part of this, they're believed to have played a role in what is remembered as one of the most devastating and largest wildfires in human history. The fires spread across Siberia and the Russian Far East, northern China, northern Mongolia, and a plume of smoke that reached Kyoto thousands of miles away. Emissions from the Siberian tiger fires can be compared to the emission cuts promised by the European Union under the Kyoto Protocol, and their effects can still be still be seen in present-day environmental studies on ozone depletion. Wow.
Yeah.
That was a big fire. All right, so that was a top 12 list of fires that I found. But there was one specifically that I wanted to focus on a little bit more. And there's obviously from that list, there are wildfires, devastating wildfires that happen all over the world. But the one I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today, and just the sheer horror of wildfires in general, is the Black Saturday bushfires that happened here in Australia. So the Black Saturday bushfires were the worst in Australia's history, killing 173 people. Almost 80 communities and entire towns were left completely unrecognisable. The fires burned more than 2,000 properties and 61 businesses. Over 430,000 hectares burned, including 70 national parks and reserves and more than 3,550 agricultural facilities. The Black Saturday fires were the subject of the 2009 Victorian Bushfires Royal Commission. So there was a lot to unpack with these fires, and they were just horrendous. I found a really interesting article. It was on the BBC, and it is some interviews with people, so talking about their experiences on this day. It goes into the detail of what they went through, which I just found horrendous. But I just wanted to give that as a little proviso. It can get a little bit emotional, and it can be a little bit confronting, I suppose. Before I delve into that, it's just one of those things. I just thought I'd give a little proviso.
I can remember where I was on both Black Friday and Black Saturday, and it feels very real. And this particular one is super raw because, I can explain later if you've got time. But
yeah, for sure. No, I would like to hear. One of the things I wanted to share with our listeners, I had a little bit of a look into emergency law and evacuation procedures and forced evacuation. Now, there's different laws in all of the states of Australia and no doubt different laws in all of the countries of the world. But one of the websites I found is about Australian emergency law. So it's a website that is discussion on the law that applies to or affects Australia's emergency services and emergency management. And there is a person by the name of Michael Eburn, and he's an Australian lawyer. So people submit questions to him, and then he responds to them on his website. So this is what I found, which I didn't know. So I thought, I'm going to share this with our listeners. They may not know as well. So mandatory evacuations. One of the questions that Michael Eburn was asked is, it is my understanding that not all states have mandatory or enforceable evacuation orders, including Victoria, which has recommended Lorne residents to leave. Happy to be corrected here. Who can order it, under what circumstances? Now, I picked that up because, Dom, you lived in Lorne for a while. Is that right?
I did, and I was in Lorne the day of this fire.
Yeah. So this specifically related to that, and I thought I'm going to put that in there because, Dom was affected by that. I knew that he was there. I wasn't sure of the dates or times. So that's fascinating. I'll get back to you on that. But Michael Eburn responded to this question and explained, I'm not going to go chapter and verse into all states for a discussion that might be, a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but there is another specific document that he refers to. It's got a very long title. Now, he says that the reality is that every state has some provision where an officer in charge or the state emergency manager, whatever title they are, can order, in inverted commas, an evacuation, and usually can accompany that with a threat of force. As noted, the circumstances will differ with each jurisdiction. The biggest exemption in Victoria, where it is still the case that a person who has pecuniary interests, I find that word difficult, in a property cannot be compelled to evacuate. So if you have a financial interest in the property, you cannot be forced to evacuate your home. So that's, just want to make that clear. When I go through and read through the stories that these people talk about on that day, and maybe people will be sitting there going, why didn't they evacuate when they were told to? Or why didn't they, get out? Or why didn't someone go and get them? It's, the reality is nobody is really going to enforce these evacuation orders. The resources that it would take to actually force someone out of danger, it puts other people at risk. So the police or the CFA, the SES, everybody, and it would be way too much. So essentially, you can put an evacuation order in place, but you can't enforce it. You can't drag someone out of their house if they're choosing to stay there and fight for their property.
Yep.
Black Saturday, period. Okay, let me read this article for you all because I want to, share a little bit about this story, which I found compelling and heartbreaking and all of the things. So this is an article from the BBC News on the 6th of February in 2019. 10 years ago, Australia experienced its worst ever bushfire disaster when 173 people died across the state of Victoria. Immediately branded as one of the darkest days in Australia's peacetime history, Black Saturday has left a profound legacy. It was like the gates of hell. There's no other way to describe it. For Tony Thomas, 7th of February 2009 began as just another ordinary day. It had been a summer of record-breaking temperatures, prompting days of safety warnings. But Mr. Thomas wasn't overly concerned. They had had scorching days like this before. In the lush, peaceful hills on the outskirts of tiny Marysville, about 90 kilometres northeast of Melbourne, He and his wife, Penny, had carved out a fruitful life running a bed and breakfast on a 60-acre property. His in-laws had arrived for a birthday lunch that day. It was a pleasant gathering despite the suffocating heat. But in the late afternoon, they spotted smoke in the west. Going for a closer look, they then saw fire. It came out of the forest behind us on the other side, about 100 kilometres away. It just roared towards us, Mr. Thomas tells the BBC. At 6:45 p.m, the fire hit, and pretty hard, said Mr. Thomas. Now, Mr. Thomas's family and the B&B guests ran for shelter in the house as he, his brother-in-law, and an employee battled the fire. It was effectively 3 men with buckets and garden hoses against a roaring, wind-whipped blaze. That picture, to me, that's horrendous. That's so scary. And when we talk about doing scary stories, some of the descriptions of what people were looking at in this scares the shit out of me. There's nothing you can do. It's, yeah. Ooh.
You may remember it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, some footage came out of another fire in Australia, and it was very bad quality CCTV footage of out the front of someone's property, and there were like SES workers trying to evacuate or move a car or something, and it was like beautiful, pristine, no smoke, no nothing. And then within 20 seconds, all the people, all the cars had just vanished. And you saw this fire come across. Sorry if I'm totally ruining your story, Kate.
Not at all.
You may mention it in a second. But you see the fire and you see it roar across this property in this street. And it's like an atomic bomb goes off. And it happened like that. And that footage, I will never leave my mind. So that's what I picture when you were describing that scenario.
Exactly right. So, just to recap on that too, his family and friends have come over in the afternoon. So let's call that 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. They have some lunch, everything like that. And then they have a look out and they can see some smoke 100 kilometres away. And then they're like, oh, there's fire for sure. 6:45. So it's a couple of hours. It's not a lot of time. And then all of a sudden it's, on top of them. At 9:30 this same night, so with Mr. Thomas, another wind change swung the fire towards the hay shed. That threw flaming hay bombs at us for the next hour or so, massive embers and hay landing on us. He went on to say that when you've got 20 to 30 metre trees burning and the flames are well above that, it's like a huge ball, and his voice just trails off because you couldn't fathom having that in your brain. 20 to 30 metres of trees, and the flames are even higher than that. What are you supposed to do with a garden hose? It's just frightening. Why people say the gates of hell is because everything turned from light to dark very, very quickly. The sun got blocked out by the smoke. So that's the other side of it. It turns to nighttime. So it's just a proper nightmare. The only thing that you could see is the glow of the fire through the smoke. We were choking. We only had large tea towels, which we were wetting down constantly and wrapping around our faces so that we could breathe. Nearby, David, now I'm going to say Battage, and I am probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but David Battage was also fighting Battage. It's Baetge. I'm going to say Battage. I'm sorry, David.
Battage.
I'm going to say Battage. Look, I'll stick with Battage. Sorry, everyone. Now, David, he was also fighting for survival on his property near the town of Buxton, directly adjacent to a large state park. That's already scary. Armed with a comprehensive fire plan and previous firefighting experience, he'd seen the smoke but chosen to stay. Like Mr. Thomas, the decision would almost cost him his life. So for those as well who are listening from other countries or might not experience wildfires or bushfires in their particular city or nearby, particularly in Victoria and all states of Australia, people that live in areas that are susceptible to bushfires, they are required to have a fire safety plan. So that is essentially, what are we going to do if there is a fire? So are we going to evacuate? Are we choosing to do that? If it becomes too late to evacuate, so the winds change or it becomes dark, you can't drive safely in the smoke, what are we going to do? So how do we put everything together? So fire plans for Dom and I, if we were to talk about, a fire plan, we know what we're talking about. It's super comprehensive and it's something that we're familiar with. But just thought I'd sidebar that in case you were like, what's a fire plan?
And remember, this is 2009, so people don't have smartphones with apps and things. And when it's like 700 separate fires going on across a big state, nobody knows everything and the direction of everything all at once. So it's a bit of a kind of like a good example maybe to compare for those in the States is like tornado warnings and stuff like that. You
right.
don't know. You don't have a lot of you don't have as much time as you think.
Yeah, exactly. Now, at about 6:30 that night, Mr. Babbage spotted a fire on top of peaks about 3 kilometres away with what he estimated to be 100-metre high fireballs. Even for a veteran bush firefighter, he was shocked at the speed of the fire as it raced towards him. He said the sky was iridescent red with a deafening roar like standing next to a 747 jet. So that's something I forget too. Fire makes noise. And that would just, like the wind and the fire and the smoke, it's a literal hell on earth. It's
raining embers, like it's like rain fire.
Yeah, it's like Dante's Peak vibes. It's hectic. Now, Mr. Babbage goes on to say that it was like being inside a cocoon of smoke with a maximum visibility range of about 30 meters. And the whole of this hemisphere in every direction was glowing cherry red. He said it was like being sandblasted, but with burning embers. There you go. Ooh. There's a cute activity we can do this weekend, Dom. Ooh. Do we want to be sandblasted with burning embers, or are you going to pass on that one?
I mean, I want to fight the signs of aging and stuff like that, but that's one cosmetic surgery thing that I'm happy to say no to.
Yeah, fair enough. All through this, once stunning landscape, others faced similar struggles. Karen Kernow was among them. As her house caught fire, she fled in her car with her old dog, hurtling over and around burning trees. She was guilt-struck at having to leave her panicked horses behind. Oh. Now, nearby in Kinglake West, local artist Michelle Bolmat was also making a mad dash to safety. The ash started to fall and the darkness came. It became completely black everywhere, she tells the BBC. A tree came down in front of her, but as the heat started to build, she revved her engine and drove over it. I looked back and I saw the fire coming. All four got through that nightmare night. But when the sun rose the next morning, it was eerily quiet. The lush landscape was gone. Our world turned from beautiful colours to black and grey, Mr. Thomas recalled. There wasn't a spot on the property that wasn't burnt, and it was the same across the whole area. Kinglake suffered the heaviest toll with 120 perishing. In Marysville, 39 people died, 34 of them locals, and the town was effectively obliterated. Probably 22 of those 34 people were friends of ours, Mr. Thomas says. Oh.
Yeah.
God, sorry, it's just so... Oh, it's awful. After the final embers were doused, the Black Saturday fires continued to the 14th of March. The true scale of the fires was revealed. About 400 blazes had burned, most sparked by faulty power lines and lightning, but there were also cases of arson. A total of 173 people died, Australia's deadliest ever bushfire event. It left several hundreds more injured, more than 2,000 homes destroyed, and more than 7,500 people displaced. The RSPCA, which is our pet rescue facility here in Australia, in Victoria, estimated that up to 1 million animals died. It was unprecedented even for a country that was long used to bushfires. Ooh. Over the years, Australia has been hit with several deadly blazes, but the Black Saturday fires of 2009 were singular in their ferocity. Now, Dom, this is interesting because it specifies here. You were saying earlier about it being like an atomic bomb going off.
Mm.
These fires were equal to 1,500 atomic bombs being ignited.
Yeah.
That's the sheer capacity.
Power.
Oh, power. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So the question in this article then asked, what made this event so severe? Kevin Parkin, a Bureau of Meteorology senior forecaster, said that it was a combination of record temperatures, unusually strong howling northwesterly winds in excess of 100 kilometers an hour, so that's 60 miles an hour. So that combined with a tinder dry landscape because there was a long-running drought, and then the temperatures reaching 46.4 degrees in Melbourne. So in rural areas, that can be 2 to 3 to 4 degrees hotter. So we're talking nearly 50 degrees Celsius. Mr. Parkin said that that was a record for Melbourne in over 100 years. When you went outside, there was just a blast of hot air. It was like having a hairdryer to your face. That's the perfect way to describe it. Anybody that lives anywhere with temperatures like that, and it's a dry heat, not a humid heat, that's exactly what it is. You walk outside and every bit of moisture is just sucked from your body. It's, quite confronting. No firefighting force stood a chance, especially when the blazes hit Australia's highly flammable eucalypt forests, he says. Spot fires sprang up kilometres downwind from the main front. That's the other side. It's like these firefighters are trying so hard, and then the winds will pick up and carry embers a kilometre behind them. And then all of a sudden they're surrounded by fire. It's just, these, like, the heroes that put themselves in the way of this uncontrollable beast will just forever, like, true heroes. It's just incredible what they put themselves in.
That's why it also makes it very difficult for you to know when or if it is safe to leave, because you might think it's fine to leave and the fire's in that direction, but in the opposite direction to where you think you should escape to.
Yeah.
There could be about 20 fires about to pop up very unexpectedly because of all the embers. So you don't just flee in that direction away from the fire necessarily.
No, that's right.
Anyway.
Mr. Parkin from the Bureau also went on to say that these fires all joined together and became a massive fire area, which is what we call a pyrocumulonimbus. So cumulonimbus in terms of clouds, but this term I'd never heard, which is a pyrocumulonimbus. So it's just a sea of fire. This pyrocumulonimbus started to generate its own lightning. How horrendous is that? It's so absolutely massive. It created its own weather event inside of itself.
Yeah.
That's what was going on. And then, of course, the lightning started more fires. Can you imagine that? You're like, okay, this fire's enough. Oh, cool. It's evolved into starting its own fires with its own lightning. This is swell. I'm so pleased I'm in the CFA. What a good career choice.
Okay. Here we go.
Whatever. The temperatures of these fires were capable and did melt metal like it was nothing. That is my story about the Black Saturday. Wait, Black Saturday? Yes, I threw myself off there with Fridays and Saturdays, but the Black Saturday fires, which is my new worst nightmare. Forget the torture. You can torture me. I'll hop on a Spanish donkey. I will be the thumb-screwed girl. I will absolutely do anything to ever avoid having to be anywhere near something like that.
Kate will wear tight-fitting clothing around her face.
Yeah, no problems. No problems. I will get my arms trapped in a hoodie as I take it off, or a dress, an evening dress. I'll stay there if it means that this never has to happen again. Although I know that's not true. But, it's just, we talk about fears. This is my number one fear. This is fires are fucked. That's all. That's all I have to say.
That's our tip for the survival tip for the week.
That's my survival tip for the week. So, backing up from that, I want to add a pop culture reference in for you. And I'm going a little bit different this time, Dom. I've previously done movies. I've previously done a book. Today, I'm going to share with you a video game.
Oh.
A video game that is called Firewatch. Now, Firewatch is a single-player, first-person mystery set in the Wyoming wilderness. Now, this has like 9.5 out of 10 rating. It's very popular. A little bit of a synopsis of this game. is that it's the year 1989 and you're a man named Henry who's retreated from his messy life to work as a fire lookout in the Wyoming wilderness.
Hi,
Wilderness,
Henry.
not wilderness. Hi, Henry. Welcome. Perched high atop a mountain, it's your job to look for smoke and keep the wilderness safe. An especially hot, dry summer has everyone on edge. Your supervisor, Delilah, hi, Delilah, is available to you at all times over a small handheld radio, your only contact with the world that you left behind. But when something strange draws you out of your lookout tower and into the forest, you'll explore a wild and unknown environment, facing questions and making choices that can build or destroy the only meaningful relationship you have. Ooh! So that is Firewatch, our pop culture reference for the week. That was my story about wildfires, specifically our Black Saturday 2009 fires here in Victoria. Dom, do you want to share your story from those fires about being in Lorne?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sure. They're both really, really quick, actually, because Black Friday, I'd actually driven up so this is the other one, the more recent one that wasn't as devastating.
Yeah, this was the 2019, 2020 Black Friday.
Yeah, Kane and I had just done a whole tour along the coast, like southern coast, and driven all the way up to like northern New South Wales and back down to Victoria. And we went through majority of those state forests. We even got out and we'd go on adventures and stuff. And literally like a month later, the entire thing went up. That was very scary. And we've driven back through them again and just gone, well, that place is gone. That place is gone. That place is gone.
Yeah.
It's quite unnerving to place yourself so recently to it. But in 2009, I was living in Lorne, and my other partner, Glenn, he's from Lorne. His mother lives in Lorne. Ash Wednesday is another infamous bushfire in Australian history, but it's very specific to that area, the Otway National Forest. But I remember that day, it was so hot, no one could go outside, and I was working at Lawn Food Works, and we all knew that it was a very risky day, and the Otway National Forest had something like 12 times more shrub, like
the density
debris.
Of forests? Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, okay.
So, normal cycle of a forest, lots of leaf litter, lots of crap builds up.
Stuff. Yeah.
It naturally has to be burnt off. It just doesn't disappear. Fires are part of the natural cycle of life. But compared to Ash Wednesday, there was 12 times as much leaf litter and debris on the floors of Otway. So everyone knew that the Otways was overdue for a mega fire.
A mega event. Yeah.
And I remember during the day, everyone's listening to the radio. There was no apps or anything, so you've got like one source to find out what's happening.
Yeah.
But I remember walking out the back and seeing just a curtain of smoke on the hills behind, like up Dean's Marsh Way, and everyone knew that if there's a fire there, you better hope that the winds are not coming towards Lorne, because Lorne is a pocket in the middle of this state forest. You don't leave. Lorne knows that if there's a fire, you can't drive out either way along the coast, because you're just going to hit into state forest.
Yeah.
So we were pretty much, the town was preparing for, absolute decimation. We were handing out bottles of water. We were just giving shit away for free, getting everyone prepared. And the plan in Lorne, I don't know if this is still the case, but the plan in Lorne is for everyone in the town to go to the beach if there is a fire. And even on the beachfront, the fire can get that hot that it can melt the sand. So you actually you can't be on the beach. You have to go into the water.
Oh my God.
And even duck under the water if the fire were to come right up into the town, because it would be so hot.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was luckily nothing like that happened. We were fine. The winds didn't change. They were able to get that particular fire under control, and it was all up, King Lake Marysville way. But where we lived is on the border of the state forest, and they do regular burn-offs in that space, in that area, to try and protect lawn. That's a whole another controversial topic, burning off. But I remember one night I had done like a late shift, came home, had a nap, and I woke up and it was dark outside, and I didn't realize they were burning off. And where the house that we lived on is in a gully. So we're facing down into the gully, and up the other side is all just state forest. And I woke up, I'd say 6 or 7 o'clock. Everything was pitch black. It shouldn't have been pitch black.
No.
The sun should have still been out, but they were doing burn-offs, and there was a wall. That entire other embankment of that gully was a wall. I'm saying like a wall of fire. My windows were top to bottom just a wall of fire. And this is a controlled burn.
Yeah.
But I woke up so petrified, terrified.
God, you would have been.
I'd fallen asleep. A bushfire started. I'm the only one home or whatever. What do I do? Luckily, it was all controlled. It was meant to be happening. Everything was fine. But
yeah. Oh, that's especially after waking up, because you'd have no, like when you're in that daze and you've got no concept, that would just be so terrifying.
Anyway, well done, Kate.
Oh, hey, thank you.
Bit of a serious story.
It was a bit of a serious one, but it was, I find it fascinating. And again, we talk about scary things. We want to keep on that sort of vein. So that scares me. So I wanted to share it with you.
Agropyrophobia.
Yeah, agropyrophobia. Yeah. All right, well, superstars, I tell you what, we're going to go because Dom's got dinner, and my mummy just texted me and said she's actually cooked me tea. So I'm going to go to her house, which is super far away from me. So I better get in the car, and I will talk to you all very soon. Hey, Dom, love you.
Love you, Kate. Well done. And everyone, don't forget, check out our socials, give us a follow. Sign up onto our Patreon. And send us an email.
Now, go and give us 5 stars. Rate us. Review us. We'd love to hear from you.
We'll see you next week.
Bye. Love you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yes.